Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon, so should you. Enjoy your treat!
What would your perfect SoulCalibur game look like without any kind of budgetary constraints? That's what I want to talk about today. So we know that in the gaming world, there's like a lot of things that go into actually project development. We know a lot of things that have to do with marketing and budget and finances and background investors and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's what usually ties into how much money a game gets for its budget. But let's take that out of the equation. I want to talk about my perfect SoulCalibur game, or as close to I can get to it, and then I want to hear about yours. The first thing that I want to talk about is my favorite mode from any kind of game and any of SoulCalibur's Chronicles of the Sword. But how relevant would that be today to be actually to play as like little guys on a map trying to like break down like these towers, and then like having like this kind of set RPG or tactical style gameplay, battling against the CPU until one of them falls, and leveling up your characters and customizing them and stuff like that based on that. Well, how about we tweak that a little bit? How about we have Chronicles of the Sword for a mode, but instead of that overhead map type deal, we actually create our characters and adjust the characters that we get along the way, but we're in a semi-open world, like a little hub, if you will. We would go to different areas and have these big open areas, and we're fighting enemies kind of like maybe Dynasty Warrior style, but we're using the character's moveset that our characters are based on. That being said, if you're using like Ivy's style, you would be using Ivy's moves for your character. The same as we do now, the same as we do in regular battle, but just in this world. Alright, and now we still have these towers. We still have these castles and these towers of enemies, but if you see at the top of the tower, like it's got 5 enemies in it, like we did in Chronicles of the Sword, you just go up the different levels. You go into the actual tower and you go up these levels, and you have to fight an enemy on each level, or multiple enemies depending if they congregate in a certain area, similar to how Street Fighter 6 does it, where you have to fight multiple enemies in a row or at the same time. Then those certain areas have boss battles, which will go into a standardized actual 3-dimensional space, which is the classic SoulCalibur battling system. And then we use that to actually take advantage of our foes, and we destroy them, and that's that. I think that's a much better way to put that, and maybe gain some of their armor or gain some customization stuff, not only for that mode itself, but also for the actual game. I think that would be awesome. We can still have the same kind of styles like we did with the other game, with the other mode, with having like the knights and the cavaliers and stuff like that, and characters that can actually travel on horseback, or characters that have a higher defense but a little bit slower moving, and we have characters that are better at traversal. The same kind of situation we would see for that, or like a type of Musu SoulCalibur game, but that's just the story mode, or the secondary story mode even. That's a way that I think we could bring Chronicles of the Sword into the mainstream and make it kind of like newer than it would be before, because let's all be honest, we love Chronicles of the Sword, but if we had it in our modern SoulCalibur games, we'd be like, meh. I mean, Libra of the Souls tried its best to actually emulate that feeling, but it was a little bit too much heavy-duty work when it came to the reading and like the traversal and stuff, and not much entertainment value until you actually got into the fights themselves. But we would actually have this be fun and engaging inside of outside the fights at all. Like, that's it. Outside of the fights themselves, like, that's it. We just want to actually throw our all into this, and this be the mode that we put countless hours into. Also give us stuff that unlocks for our weapons and all that other kind of stuff. Unlocks are always perfect, so any way that you can unlock stuff in the game, peachy keen, and that's what we want to see. Alright, now the second thing that I want to see is another Towers type mode that we've had in like previous games like SoulCalibur 4, for example. And Towers mode would be the mode that actually contains a lot of the contingency variables, like the slippery stages, or the stages are flipped or randomly flipped upside down. Think of like MK Towers. I know SoulCalibur 4 did it also, but just think of something like that. And then I want that to actually be like its own mode separately too, so that we have towers, and again, unlock stuff or even more lore at the top once you get past the boss, or even customization pieces that are customizable to that special boss that's showing up. Not a timed exclusive thing, but just like, you know that if you're fighting that boss, you're getting at least one of its gear pieces, and this would also encourage further gameplay. I think that would be an awesome mode to have. How about you? Another mode that I would like to see come back is kind of a labyrinth type mode that we saw in SoulCalibur 2. Let's throw ourselves into that. We have this mode that comes out. It's like not similar at all to Chronicles of the Sword. We're just going through and choosing which nodes we want to unlock, and certain nodes have fights which give us rewards, certain nodes do not, that kind of thing. And this is where the secret bosses and this stuff would be, so that like you have that extra like oomph to the gameplay. Now, when it came to online only, ranked mode should just be the cast characters, no customization, no nothing. Ranked is ranked is ranked. Ranked should always be as virgin as possible and have nothing added to it so that everyone can learn the character, learn their movesets, learn the timing, learn the hitboxes, learn the frames, and that's it, right? Just like ranked is ranked is ranked. But I think there should also be a secondary ranked mode for created characters and customized characters so that we can have fun. Extra production value. Now, of course, when I say this, people are going to jump to like cinematics and stuff like that. Cool, I want cinematics too. But what I also want is to be able to play around with the UI some, give us unlockable background images or background movies to have in the background of our main menus, not just like that one static image. Let us choose the songs that we want in the main menu. Let us choose our announcer. Let us choose the voiceover of the announcer. Let us choose the characters that's going to be saying that. Or maybe even a way that they do in some kind of mobile games where like you choose your character, even if it's your custom created character, and they appear on screen and they're the ones that are actually navigating you through the menus and speaking to you when you're doing things. And I want this to also apply to the library. I think the library and the encyclopedia could be a lot tweaked a lot better to make it a lot more engaging for the actual player itself. Like have it be live voiceovers, like have it be creative voiceovers, have it be pictures on screen also alongside of like reading the stuff while it's auto reading instead of just scrolling through the pages and reading the extra lore stuff. That's just an extra little tidbit thing, but I hope that something like that is actually there. Now, another thing that I want to see is a lot more artwork and a lot more unlockable stuff. So we have had this in similar games in the past, but there's tons of art that goes along these SoulCalibur games, and I want to see it. I want to see a lot of this, like the cool design concepts, the cool weapon concepts, like how they came up with different stages and scenery and stuff like that. I want to see that in the library as well, but I want to have a lot more of it, and I want it to be unlockable so that you have more stuff to do in order to get there, not just have everything unlocked in the first place. The story mode should just be pretty much like a cinematic story mode. I like that, but there needs to be something that gives it some kind of replayability. So I would like a rivals section or something like that, or some kind of way where you can actually unlock something different by playing it multiple times as opposed to just playing it the first time around. I don't really want to invest too much time with like RNG or anything like that. I think like, let's say you're going to play the final boss, you have a chance of, and this is RNG, but a chance of the boss dropping one of its gear or something like that, and having like a rarity effect to that, to where like you get like a secondary effect outside of ranked mode, just for fun. And we should be able to toggle these kind of things off. And that goes into my next point. I do want to see some RPG mechanics that they have. So in Libra of Souls, and similar to other modes in SoulCalibur, like the weapons have different like effects to them. So I want a full-on thing of like, yeah, it causes enemy to slow down for 2 seconds, or makes it easier to parry attacks, or gives you extra 10% defense, or those kind of different effects that you can see on weapons and maybe even clothing. But keep that not only outside of the game modes themselves, but actually have them when you're playing with friends also, but have a toggle to where it's a different mode. Similar to how Injustice 2 does this, where like you can have the gear effect option on or the gear effect option off, where both characters are like max level and you're just like normal. I think that's the best way to go about doing that. But anything extra is going to be more for me personally, because like if somebody doesn't want that, they can always turn it off, and that's the option I want them to have. I think the fighting needs to be tighter. I do want to have more emphasis on the 8-way run system and more emphasis on the defensive options in the game without having to rely on mechanics like reversal edge. I want the gameplay to just be the center and focus of it, so that like when it does go to like esports and it does go to tournaments, it actually shines through its gameplay and not just the extra stuff that the single player people like, which also leads into netcode and all that stuff. My perfect SoulCalibur game would definitely not be peer-to-peer. That's for damn sure. Like I hope that we get like some kind of rollback or delay-based system so that we actually have a good netcode and can play with people around the world and not have too much problems. I don't want to see something like on the Fortnite servers where like I'm like literally hardwired in next to my router with like a gigabit internet upload and download speeds, and I'm seeing like an X Wi-Fi symbol and the servers are glitching. No thank you. Work on that. SoulCalibur, Project Soul, Bandai Namco, just make this happen and get there. So those are just a few of the things that I wanted to talk about. I could honestly go on forever talking about my perfect SoulCalibur game. And again, this has nothing to do with like what's actually going to be in SoulCalibur 7. Just not even what I want to see in SoulCalibur 7. This is just my perfect SoulCalibur game, like what it would look like. And I'm curious to know about yours. So you can always tell me in the comment section down below, or head over to the Discord, in which you will find a link to that in my description box down below. And any of the thoughts are always waiting. But before we end the video, I want to get to the last comment that we had on our last video. I want to get to the last poll that we did in our last video. And this poll actually stated, is SoulCalibur 7 relevant as a concept? And then we had 64% of the people said, yes, my soul still burns. 14% said yes, but I can't wait for the next one. 18% said possibly, but it needs more. 5% said no, I've lost all hope. This is out of a pool of 302 votes. I'm sorry that you lost hope, but your soul still burns is similar to mine. My soul still burns. Here's the poll, I'm going to show it on the screen anyway, so I don't even know why I'm doing this, but here's some comments also talking about that. Any and all thoughts are always welcome in the comment section down below, guys. And as I always say, I love it, thank you,
and thank you.